Hello, good morning. Hi, Namrata.
Hi, Richa.
So, welcome everyone to episode 4 of Red Dot Podcast. And today we are going to be talking about Pranamaya Kosha and how it relates to your menstrual health. So, firstly, how have you been? I know it's been a long gap.
Yeah, it's been a long gap and it's good to be back. We both were working on something on our own and we
Yes.
finally decided that it's been a long time and we should get back
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Pranamaya Kosha soon.
Right. There was a lot of travel for me, and I just finished with the zero sugar August as well.
Yeah, kudos to you. Oh my God, I saw the report card and it looked so promising.
Yeah, I've never gone even 15 days without sugar. I think 7 days been yoga in my life because I'm a person who has a huge sweet tooth. So it was a big deal for me. And honestly, if I was not the leader of that group, I wouldn't have probably completed 31 days. But it felt good in terms of I felt mentally stronger that, sugar doesn't control me, I can control it.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that was good. And I think periods were really smooth this time. I mean, they have been smooth for one and a half year. But this time I didn't even know that the periods are going to come. They just came.
Yeah, I saw your report card and your tracking sheet, and it exactly coincided with the full moon as well.
Yeah,
And,
right,
uh,
right.
and you had a proper 28-day cycle, and I was like, okay, that's nice.
Yeah,
And also, like you're tracking your mood also, and your mood changes also how it is happening. Because sometimes when you all of a sudden stop sugar, I think you also experience a crash in your mood at times,
yes, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it was pretty stable for you. It wasn't
yeah.
like a lot
It
of
was, yes,
yeah.
because I've been following cutting out sugar for the past one and a half year at least. That's why. And then whenever I did feel low or a craving, I had a fruit. Fruit was allowed, so I had that.
Yeah, so all artificial sweeteners basically were cut
Yes,
out.
yes. Even the chocolates with no added sugar still have mannitol and all
Yeah,
of that. So we cut that out as well. All right, so let's get into the topic of this podcast, this episode. So we are talking about Pranamaya Kosha. So Namrita, why don't you start with your understanding of what is prana and what is Pranamaya Kosha?
okay. Prana, as described in almost all the texts you will come across ever, it's the gross life force energy that is flowing through us. It started since the time we were born, and it was like the first breath of life that we started our life with, and it flows through us in various ways through various subtle channels, also through the major channels, but there are a lot of other pathways that are energetic pathways in our bodies that it flows through. In yogic system, it's called as nadis. In traditional Chinese medicine, it's called as meridians.
Hmm.
And then there are also chakra systems. So there are various physical and subtle energy pathways that prana flows through,
Right.
and it expresses itself as the life that we are experiencing in the cells in our body. Yeah, so I think we can very nicely explain it as it's a bridge between the physical and our mental body.
Yeah, right, right. And also, I think a bridge between our higher self and how we manifest into this physical world.
Yes.
Yeah, because again, in a lot of text, it is said that it is the one that vitalizes your body. So we are made up of billions of cells, but what governs that it all works together and there is a system and a flow to it. So I see it as an algorithm that manages the flow, dictates how the systems all work together.
Yeah, so there is a lot of relationship between prana and between different organs and how the prana flows interrelated in the organs also.
Absolutely.
Because, for example, stomach and spleen.
Yeah.
So spleen has a dam. This called the yin and yang system in TCM. So I think spleen has a much damp energy, and stomach has to have a more acidic or a fire
Right.
energy. And yeah, so the prana flows has to happen like that.
Hmm.
Uh, so there are a lot of other systems in different organs as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, we can use so many systems to um, affect the flow of prana in
Right.
a way. So, Richa, I think we should next touch upon like how does prana flow
Right.
dictate our periods.
Yeah. Right. Right. Do you want to share that image of the centers, the
Think-
different types of prana? Yeah. Because depending on what functions the prana performs, the prana has five parts, and
yeah,
of course, one of it is more relevant to our episode for menstruation. So there
yeah,
is the prana vayu, there is udyana vayu, samana vayu, apana vayu. Yeah, what did I miss?
yeah. So should I share?
Yeah, are you able to share it?
Just a minute.
So this diagram will show where the area of operation is, but please don't think of it as the prana or that vayu is just restricted in that area. All the vayus are going to affect all of your body.
So I hope people can see. I pulled up a diagram which was the simplest in
Right. Yeah.
on Google search. So to describe the five types of prana. So in prana also, prana has, like we talked about, it's various energy systems, like or the various flow systems that are there in the body. So according to the flow and how the prana is dictating the function of the organ systems in those parts of your body. I think according to that, this prana system is also the panch
Yeah.
prana is
Right.
divided or categorized.
Right.
And so like I think we'll go from like this prana, udana, vyana, samana, and apana. We'll not go too much into detail about all the types of pranas
Correct.
because these are also called vayus, right?
Vayus. Yes.
Yeah. So vayu because I think about because of the flow
The
and
flow.
how it is
Yeah.
flowing in
Yeah.
the body.
Va va means to move. So
Okay, nice.
vayu.
So, right, I think we'll only focus on Apana Vayu because Apana Vayu governs all the elimination processes in the body and
Correct.
hits the downward direction of flow because I think when it comes to shedding of the shedding of the uterus, Apana Vayu is mainly responsible for it.
Yeah.
So I'll just stop sharing my screen, then we can talk
Yeah.
more about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Done.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, so there are all these movements in our body, the prana going upward, apana going downward. Then there are various spiral energies inside our stomach, all of that. So yeah, let's focus on apana. This is the one that is responsible for all kinds of expulsions from your physical as well as your mental body as well.
Yeah,
So
correct. Rightly
yeah,
pointed out, because I think all your thoughts and whatever emotions you're feeling, not just the physical elimination processes are governed by Apana, but also all the mental eliminations, the
right,
thoughts, emotions that you should be releasing.
correct,
Apana Vayu
correct,
governs that as well.
right, right. Yeah, so how I can relate it to me personally is that I used to have period pain, right? So
Mhm.
now after studying for this podcast, actually, I could actually relate what things have worked for me and why they work for me, because when your apana vayu is blocked, the downward flow of the energy is not free flowing, then what happens is it is restricted and it builds up in your uterus and all the organs that are used for expulsion.
Yeah.
So that's why during the periods I used to have a lot of pain because that free flow was not there.
Mhm.
And I can also relate because before starting my padam or the flow 108 workout that I teach, I used to have really cold hand and feet. So the circulation was not going to the extremes of my body as well. So that also says a lot about the apana vayu being blocked. And one day, uh, our guru, your and my guru, yoga guru Pashupati, he gave me an exercise for period pain. Okay, so it was, I don't recollect perfectly, so please don't try this because I don't recollect the exercise perfectly, but it was something about massaging downward on your legs, keeping my toes connected. And I did that when I was getting the period pain. He told me to do that. I did that and I had a sudden sensation of vomiting. Okay, so I went and vomited out. And after that, the period pain just went away. And this was like level 9 on a scale of 10. Period pain was like 8 or 9 for me. That
Wow.
kind of pain was there. And it just went away after the vomiting. So now I can relate that the free flow of expulsion energy that was blocked and that got unblocked with that massage. And of course, vomiting is also another type of expulsion.
Yeah.
It was like a unblocking of that energy, and after that, there was no period pain.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a great experience to share, Richa, because I'm sure so many women go through it.
yeah,
And I think there are a lot of when we're talking about the physical expulsion and then you could feel the relief of pain. That means, do you think that there was something on a very on the Manomaya Kosha level, on a mental level, that was blocking the energy flow?
yeah.
Because I think I was working with, I was not working, but I had a friend who she used to experience intense physical pain during periods as PMS and even during periods when she was
Mm,
shedding. So um, she always used to say out loud that periods is a curse, periods are curse, and uh, that's how she had this whole idea about and how she looked at it. And
right.
that's the kind of period she also used to experience physically in reality also.
Mm,
So maybe a lot of it has to do with what how you look at periods, or even your, I think when it comes to viewing the energy of the womb, because it has to do a lot with sexuality. And when I say sexuality, is not in some perverted way that I'm saying it, but of course it has to do a lot with how you view yourself as a woman,
right,
and how you sexuality also means the power to create, and
right,
that means creativity also.
right.
So if maybe if you're stuck somewhere in life, then there's a lot of and you feel like you're not able to create, and you're not able to express freely, and maybe there's a bad power dynamic in a relationship where you are controlled, or maybe there's excessive control that you are practicing in the relationship.
Yeah,
You're very dominating. So these can also cause a lot of imbalances and blockages in how the energy is flowing, and it can block your energies in those organs also, and
mm,
whom can have an impact. So I think it relates on so many levels. It's not just
yeah,
very one
yeah.
dimensional approach to
Correct, correct,
how to improve prana and
right,
how it can affect your periods.
right. True. Yeah, that's such a good point because it's not just you individually who's affecting your prana, it's your relationships, the kind of society that you're living in.
Exactly. So I think that brings us to like, what affects your prana in
Yeah,
general. What is prana affected by, and how we in turn can affect it or regulate it. Because I think pranic balance is a natural state of being. But
right.
because of so many things that we go through in our daily lives, prana gets imbalanced. So,
Yeah,
balance it.
yeah, yeah. And the important thing is that you can control it. Although there might be 100 things affecting it, but it is totally in your control.
Yeah.
And I mean to understand that we all can do a simple exercise of just holding your hands, in palms in front of each other, and just focus on the palms of your hand. Focus on the center of the palm rather. You can keep your eyes open or closed. And as you breathe in, You might feel an expansion between your palms, and immediately within a minute of focusing your attention on your palms, you might feel a tingling sensation or increased blood flow, temperature changes, or kind of like a magnetism between your hands. So this is there, prana is there within you. You can feel it, and you can affect it through your attention. Okay, and yeah, you can open your eyes now. Keep, you can keep feeling that energy between your palms. Do you hear a sound?
Yeah, I do.
What is this? Is this a prana?
Let me just get my headphones and see if it
Yeah,
comes.
it's like okay, it's gone. Oh,
Yes.
it's
Is it,
gone.
is it back?
It's gone. The whoosh sound is gone.
Okay.
It was like there was a third podcaster.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah. So similarly, you can direct your attention even to your Muladhara chakra or to your pelvis area, and you can feel the energy build up over there. So attention is one of the main ways you can direct the prana. And
definitely. And a lot of people see like you can't see prana, how do you know it's flowing? And you can't even see electromagnetic waves and radio waves and so many
yeah,
other. But because science is telling you're believing, but I think about prana, it's been talked about in so many texts in yoga, in Chinese medicine, and in so many other ways like biomagnetism and
yeah,
aura imaging. So many ways it's been
yeah,
talked about, but
yeah. And if you don't want to believe it in that, you just want to believe in electromagnetism, sure, go ahead, call it that. It doesn't matter what you call it. The thing is that there is electromagnetism, there is a pathway of flow to all of your systems, which is governing everything. And I think electromagnetism is what the science is now discovering, right? It's the flow of ions.
yeah.
That's the way they look at prana.
Yeah, prana as basically, actually, in scientific terms, it's been explained as the ionic charges that are there in various
Yeah,
parts of the body and how the flow
right,
works in them.
right, right.
Okay, so I think we can say that um, us having a thought or the state of mind affects prana.
Yeah,
Then maybe breathing definitely affects
definitely.
prana because there's
Yes.
a lot of pranayamas that you can do to
Yeah,
affect your prana.
yeah.
Then I think the sunlight affects
Sunlight.
prana,
Absolutely. These
and
are actually sources of prana, breath, sunlight, then earth, grounding, connecting bare feet with the earth.
yeah,
That
so
affect.
grounding will
Yeah.
definitely affect prana. How much you are exposing yourself to the earth element, uh,
Yes.
like walking barefoot or going in nature
Right.
or going to a nearby river or pond, lake, whatever.
Yes.
And then I think also the environment which you are living in,
Hmm.
because that also kind of shapes the kind of thoughts and mental state you are having.
Hmm.
And also, I was reading up somewhere that if someone with a very high prana comes near you, for example, a guru or a teacher, you immediately start healing in their pranic or in their aura because that's
Right.
the kind of energy they are carrying, and energy always flows from a higher level to a lower
Yeah.
level. If there's excess of prana and you have low prana, then that will flow, and that's why you experience this healing state,
Yes.
and you begin to heal, you begin to feel better in their
Yeah.
presence. And there are also a lot of people, not just gurus, but also a lot of people who have good intentions towards you.
Yeah.
So if someone with
Yeah.
bad intentions is coming nearby you, you will experience a depletion of prana.
Right, right. And I think this all relates to electromagnetism, like just like how a powerful magnet will align the iron filings around it.
Yeah,
In a similar way, a powerful person like a guru or someone with good intentions is able to affect your alignment of energy, your flow of ions, physically, your flow of ions in your body.
yeah,
And that is how this works.
yeah. Yeah, and your chakras can get imbalanced and out of alignment
Yeah,
in
for
presence of such people. And again, that can also, because your energy is being depleted, and if you are being repressed in that
sure.
kind of energy exchange where you're not able to voice your opinion, where you're
Hmm.
not able to, where you're subjugated by the other person,
Hmm.
again, that can have like a suppression of emotions and a suppression of your adrenal glands,
Right,
because how mind, like in Manumaya Kosha, we revisited how mind and emotions and hormones are directly related.
right,
So that can directly affect your periods. So
correct.
there's so many aspects, and if you're having, if someone who is listening to this podcast, if they're experiencing periods, don't just try a one-way approach to how to solve your problem. If you're
True.
having a painful period, maybe look around your environment and see what kind of environment you're living in also.
Right,
And then I think, okay, moving on to what else affects prana is, I think the final point is nutrition. Also, the kind of food you're eating, does it have good energy? Is it old food? Does it have any prana at all that can
correct,
benefit you?
correct,
So, food also has prana.
right. Yeah,
So,
that's one of the important sources of prana ions for us.
yes. And in a lot of Ayurvedic texts, it's been mentioned what the kind of food that that brings or promotes prana flow in your body also.
Right, right. And you know what I'm seeing lately in the health and fitness industry is a lot of it is moving from the diets into the quantum health or quantum functions that happen in a cell. So fine, you have your food, but ultimately your cell does not use up the carbohydrate or the protein. It uses the ions from that carbohydrate and protein. So yeah, it is science is going deeper and it's coming into the main health and fitness industry as well.
Yeah, I'm glad it happened. It's happening at this rate because
Yeah.
the the way our health system was progressing in the past 10 or 20 years, I think it was super slow and very one way approach, and mostly treating the symptoms. But now we are getting to the root of it, and a lot of people are becoming aware because of social media. So
Yeah.
it's a good.
Yes. Right. Right. And coming to irregular periods or PCOS now,
Hmm.
and because by the way, September is also PCOS awareness month.
Okay.
So yeah, every year it is celebrated as the PCOS awareness month, and I'm glad because it still needs a lot of awareness in India, especially because not a lot of women are talking openly about it. But yeah, it has the awareness has increased in the past 5 years for sure. So I was reading up a little bit on Ayurveda and how that relates to prana and the irregular periods. So, by the way, did you know that in Ayurveda they have a name for the stages of menstrual cycle, like the follicular phase, the luteal phase? This is
No.
already given in Ayurveda. So I was surprised to know that the names are there. So follicular phase is called Ritukala.
Hmm.
Ritukala ni kala time.
Kal.
Must be like time wala kala. So Ritu Kala is there, and then luteal phase is called Ritu Vyatita Kala. Okay,
Okay.
and the periods is actually called Rajashrava Kala. Okay, please excuse me. I'm an amateur, absolute amateur, and a beginner in Ayurveda. So if I pronounce that wrong, and then there are also rituals given for each phase of the cycle. And those of you who are having irregular periods, the Ayurveda take is that there might be a imbalance in your doshas, like Kapha, Pitta, and Vata. Like the follicular phase is dominated by Kapha, and the luteal phase by Pitta, and your periods is by Vata. And Vata also relates to the Apana Vayu. I don't know exactly how, but this is how I read that Vata will, if your Vata is off, it will affect your um, Apana Vayu. I think Vata is the movement of air, right?
Yes.
Pitta is acidity,
Yes.
Kapha is the water part of it, and Vata is the air.
Mm.
So obviously it affects the Apana Vayu. It's the movement of flow. So yeah, any imbalance in Vata will cause period problems.
Yeah.
And
I think excess of vata also causes a lot of PMS overthinking situations that people might find themselves in.
right,
Excess of vata and excess of apana vayu. I read that excess of apana vayu causes mental turbulence,
right,
and same was described by our guru also. Like in,
hmm,
if you have excess of vata, it will cause mental
right,
disturbance.
right, right.
So anxiety is basically, according to him, anxiety is basically an excess of vata in your body. So
Hmm,
learn to balance your vata dosha,
right,
and you can, it can help with anxiety and those things.
right.
So wow, those are like amazing names. Firstly,
Yeah, yeah. Like we already know so much in the ancient Indian text and Ayurveda. And I want to come to a little controversial topics now that we have come to Ayurveda and the rituals related to each of the phases of the menstruation. What I also read was that there are do's and don'ts for the women when they are on their periods. So, like, and one of a few, you are smiling. So, what are your thoughts?
yeah, tell us more do's and don'ts, as if we already don't have.
Yeah, I know exactly. And I think a lot of us come with that energy when we are told the do's and don'ts. We are like, please, बहुत बता दिया है हमको. अभी let us live how we want.
Yeah.
But there might be reasons or science behind all of these rituals. Who knows? Or there might be logic behind it based on that era or that time period, which doesn't apply to us now.
Yeah. Based on a lot of things that were followed during those periods and whatever has been mentioned in Ayurvedic texts and
Yeah.
yogic texts, a lot of those things are backed by science
Yeah.
that is coming into mainstream media right now.
Right.
And we're yet to discover a lot of things, but go ahead
Yeah.
with go ahead with points. So
Yeah, so one of the don'ts was that don't go to places of temples, worship, or puja. And what I could find out, the logic that was given was that basically your apana vayu is flowing downwards during, that is the dominating force during your period, and all these places of puja and temple and worship are focused on uplifting your prana in the upward direction.
yeah,
So mixing up those upward and downward flows can cause a confusion in your body and period pain if done in the long run. So that was the logic given. So yeah, but now see, earlier it was like these were the only places which could uplift your energy, right? So
right.
and
And
kitchen
also
and
made
temple,
sure bonding also, during this time. I know earlier there were not, like, people didn't used to wear a lot of shoes, and also
hmm,
grounding I think wasn't that big of a problem.
right?
And also temples were built at really great heights
Yeah,
previously, and you had to travel really long for
yeah,
temples.
yeah, right.
So there are a lot of other reasons also, but
Yeah,
yeah, it does
but
make sense in the in the pranic system if you're talking about.
right, right, right. And the main point is that so this was not meant as something that you are impure if you're on your periods or the gods will get offended if you're on your periods.
Exactly,
The
exactly.
logic is for you to have good flow, and it is ultimately for you, which is reassuring. That is good. Then another, you want to add something on this point, or okay? Yeah,
On
tell
this,
me.
not on this point, like on the next point that you were going to say, that's you shouldn't take a head bath or you shouldn't
Hmm.
shampoo during your
Yeah,
periods.
that is one don't given, that you shouldn't shampoo and you shouldn't even bathe or clean yourself.
Yeah, yeah, bathing and cleaning, it's like, I'm so sorry, but I cannot follow this rule because,
Yeah.
of course, in the kind of, we also know the perils of not bathing and cleaning, during when you are on your periods, because there's so many threats and so many infections that can happen if you don't properly clean yourself. I'm not sure
Yes.
in what context it was actually mentioned
Yeah.
when it was being written, but
Right.
in today's context, it does not fit because we are surrounded by so many pollutants and so many other lifestyle habits we have that
Right.
cannot go without bathing and keeping ourselves
Right.
clean.
Yeah, true. And I mean, understand that thousands of years ago, I don't know what technology they had for sanitary pads or what equipment they had, cloth, but so you can understand now we can. And one another of the don'ts was that you have to sleep on the floor, and some it's not written that you have to be separate in a separate house, but some villages had a separate house for women who were on their period
Yeah,
because of the pad problem. There is no pad, so obviously they have to be in a separate place.
yeah,
So that could be the reason. But now that we have this tool, sanitary pad, tampons, or menstrual cups, so I
yeah.
think that is not required now.
Yeah, that reminds me of a very old story that is related to Mahabharata. So when the Draupadi Haran was happening, so Draupadi was supposed to be on her periods, and that's why she was
Oh,
resting in the
okay.
Kaksh, and she was
Ah,
there. She was resting, and she was not supposed to meet anyone, and nobody was supposed to come there, and that's when the
okay.
Haran happened.
Ach-
And yeah, I, I'm not sure, but I think that's what the story was. That I think
Right.
one my mom told it to
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
long ago, and yeah, so this was the way of living for people, because
Right.
how else if you have a spot or if you have something, then and if also the odor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so well, there are a lot of aspects to it, but
Yeah.
these things have been so deeply ingrained in us because when I first got my period, I was given this set of list of rules that don't do this, don't touch achar, and don't cut your nails, and don't shampoo, and
Okay.
okay, not all of this makes sense, but I still, till this date, I don't shampoo during the first 2 3 days of my periods. I
Okay.
will, even if I have bad hair, I will do something about it, but I will not shampoo. I of course take bath, but I will not shampoo. I will take a
Yeah.
head. Again,
Yeah.
I think it has to do with the apana and prana and the
Hmm.
other values that are involved.
Yeah, 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 correct. Because if you head wash, then probably the flow of circulation and energy increases to your head, right? So the upward moving energy might disrupt the downward flowing apana. I don't know, maybe.
A lot of people say that because it is cooling in nature, because you take a head bath, so it cools down your energy and
Hmm.
you need a lot of heat to shed the
Hmm.
lining of the period.
Hmm.
So if
Okay.
there's a heat imbalance, then it can.
Right. Right.
Anyway, it's a very controversial topic, and
And
I'm
I
like,
want to know from the viewers, what are your thoughts on it? Are there any do's and don'ts that you follow, or
yeah,
how do you feel about it? Do you
yeah.
feel rebellious that this does not make any sense, or are you open-minded? You want to know what is the logic behind it?
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
and
always wanted to know the logic because I was always asked not to do puja, and I was like, okay, come on. I'm sure God gave this to us not with the intention that we will become evil beings for 3 days or 4 days
right,
of month.
absolutely. I think that was lost in our senior generation and the our grandmom generation that they did not know, and so they did not pass down the logic of it.
Yeah, they were
Now
not even able to question.
they were
Uh,
not, yeah, until like the last generation. It was like ठीक है भगवान ने बोला है तो कर दो, and nobody questioned that.
yeah, my mom was like, no, my mom has said I never asked her. It's okay. I just followed what she said.
Right, right, correct. Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
it's
So
questioning these norms and also looking at it with an open approach.
yeah,
Anyway,
open up.
come back to our topic of how prana affects periods.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So I think I'll talk a little bit about Sujok therapy and how that affects prana flow. So Sujok therapy mainly uses your active points on your hands and feet, like I mentioned before.
Hmm.
These are active points because these can directly impact the flow of prana
Hmm.
through energy pathways. Now, these are some of these points are nerve endings, but some of these points are also energy pathways. When I say energy pathways, it has the flow of lymph, the flow of blood, the flow of other fluids in your body. So this is governed by these points on your hands and your foot. And uh, depending on what you're using for Sujok therapy, that is the seeds, and there are magnets that you can use. There's color therapy also combined with Sujok therapy that you can use. So if
Hmm.
one organ has low or depleted energy, there's also a color in color therapy associated with each organ.
Okay.
So mostly orange is associated with your spleen, your large intestine, your womb, and uterus. And in this particular cycle that I had, I was as my cycle was approaching, I got orange flowers in my house. I was
Hmm.
eating more and more oranges. I was having more like carrot juice and soup
Hmm.
and hibiscus tea. And
Hmm.
I was just wondering why am I all of a sudden orange has become so attractive to me. Orange
Oh,
and
so that was not intentional, it was just happening.
it was happening on an unconscious level. Maybe I read it a long time ago, but when I was doing a little bit of study for this podcast, then I came across this particular subtext that was written somewhere, and it made a lot of sense that why this is happening. And yeah, so basically, you can use these colors also on your hands,
Hmm. Hmm.
stimulate those points because each color also carries a frequency and it has a
Right.
separate, and it can stimulate the area in that frequency, which is required by those organs. So I think I will talk about the points in Sojok therapy that can be used if you're not having periods, if you want to have regular periods, or if you want to
Hmm.
alleviate the pain during periods.
Right.
So when you come to your hand, there's a point that is directly coming straight from here, and you don't have to go much. You just have to go, I think, one finger length over
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
In the center is would be the center of your womb,
Okay.
and on the sides would be
Hmm.
your ovaries.
Ovaries. Okay.
Okay. So what we do is mostly prescribed by my teachers that you use pepper. So if you tape two peppercorns on a tape and you put it on those 2 points that I'm
Hmm.
putting,
Hmm. The points of your ovaries.
the points of your ovaries, right? If you want, so I am mostly put on ovaries. For someone who is not having a lot of period, they can try this first, and even if they are not getting, maybe the next day they can try a lot of peppercorns on this area because if you draw a triangle from the center of your this these two fingers, if you draw a triangle from here, then it becomes a triangle,
Hmm.
and this area needs to be stimulated. You can also color this area red. Like
Okay.
you can use, I don't know what you can use. You can use alta or you can use some type of red color.
Henna?
Uh,
Mendi?
henna is actually cooling in nature, so you don't
Oh,
cool down this area. You need to stimulate this area and give it more heat. It
okay.
needs a lot of heat to shed the lining. That's why. So mostly red, orange, I think yellow. I'm not sure if yellow will be actually useful, but it can help tonify this area.
Hmm.
So mostly on the red and orange side of the spectrum, if you
Right.
stick, then it can help you with getting periods.
Hmm.
And then you just stimulate these points.
Hmm.
You can keep this on for few hours. That's not
Hmm.
a problem. And you can keep stimulating these points beach mein.
Hmm.
And this has actually showed effect. I keep on doing this sometime or the other, or even. So how this works is this seed, this peppercorn has an energy when it was being formed, and that energy is being carried. Basically, when we say energy, it has a separate kind of electromagnetism, and then that communicates through your cells, through your capillaries. It can expand and it can contract. So it is
Hmm.
sending out the message to the capillaries that are associated with your uterus,
Hmm.
and it is communicating the kind of energy. So
Hmm.
each seed also carries different type of energy. Like moong seeds and methi seeds are, I think, cool in nature. Moong
Hmm.
seeds are definitely cool in nature, and peppercorns are hot in nature, and they
Right.
help tonify those areas. So that's how Sujok therapy also can directly affect prana. Color therapy can also directly affect prana. So there are so many
Right.
ways that we can use to
Yes.
affect prana flow in
Yes.
periods using actual energy pathways also.
Yes. Yes.
So
Right.
it's really interesting
It's
thing.
interesting.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Another way you can affect is through Maipadam,
correct.
the workout that we do. And now, after learning so much about prana and the apana vayu, it makes so much sense why my period got regularized. The period pain went away
Yeah.
after starting Maipadam, because throughout the workout we are really reinforcing and strengthening all our prana vayus, all the five vayus. So it's going to work not just on expulsion, but your breath. There are specific ways we breathe during the movement, and I remember, I know that there are movements where I slide my hands on my legs down and again come up. So Asan sir was always particular about keep your hands in contact with the leg, slide
Hmm.
massage down, and that really unlocks your apana vayu.
Hmm.
So yes, even that helps clearing out all the pathways and energy channels, prana flows throughout
Yeah.
your body.
Yeah. Also, I think if you're someone who's sitting for very long hours, it is very natural that there will be blocked energy flow unless you are very active and you're working out every day or you're going for walks every day. Unless
Yeah,
you're doing that, if you have a stagnant lifestyle and if you're
yeah.
sitting for long hours, there will be restricted prana flow in your
Hmm.
womb
Hmm.
and in the channels that are nearby
Hmm.
uh, your womb also. So if any of these channels get blocked, suppose your glutes are not that freely moving or your
Yeah,
hamstrings are not that
yeah.
freely
Or they're not strength, they're not strong also.
strong also, if your core is not strong to begin with, if you don't work out at all, because I know that a lot of women don't focus on working out at all,
Right,
because of course a lot of things has to do with society, but also a lot of with conditioning, that is it really important, is it really relevant to me, until unless it's really important and someone wants to lose weight, they don't start working out.
right, right. Yeah,
So I think for this, there are a lot of energy channels that go through your inner thighs also. And if you're sitting for long hours, your inner thighs area and your groin area is going to be
yeah.
blocked in some way or the other.
Oh my
There
God.
are knots
That
that can form.
that just got all the memories of period pain for me. It was a lot on my inner thighs, groin area, lower back. Oh my God.
Lower back, yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah,
people who are experiencing lower back pain, it is not because directly there's something wrong with your lower back area, but it
yes,
can be because one or the other of these channels is blocked, and that's why you're having
correct,
period pains during that time.
correct.
And wow, it's
Yeah,
all interrelated, guys. There's no one way of solving your period problems,
yeah,
and always look at a holistic approach. I think for me, problem started solving when I stopped using just medicine and looking at more on the holistic approach of how
hmm,
other things and working on my doing the emotion work, because
yeah,
when you talk about the apana vayu, it directly affects your emotions and it brings, since it's eliminating, it
yeah,
wants to bring up those emotions and it
yeah.
magnifies those emotions when you are
Right,
having your periods.
right.
And it it basically it's like the whole universe is coming together for you to get rid of this emotion because it's not
Yeah,
serving you anymore.
right. And that's why it makes sense that period is a time of cleansing.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just the uterine lining which you don't need, but also the mental thoughts and emotions. And that's why we do get so emotional just
Yeah.
before the periods or during the periods. And if you are going to suppress and somehow avoid those negative things that are trying to come up, then definitely you are blocking the apana vayu, and in turn that will affect your period flow as well.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I
So
I
we
love
did,
this episode.
yeah, so did we talk about how to improve prana? By pranayama, by
Yeah,
breathing, by grounding, by getting more sun. I think people also don't get a lot of sun. And you've been doing a lot of research about, how
yeah,
getting.
yes. So the sunlight is so important. When we talk about sedentary lifestyle, we are just thinking a lack of movement,
Yeah.
but also it is a lot of lack of correct lighting. Okay, like not getting the sunlight, because the spectrum of light that you get from the natural sunlight is very different from the spectrum, or the, by spectrum I mean mixtures of the colors that you get from a screen or indoors or in an office environment. And by the way, sitting behind the glass
Hmm.
does not count as getting sunlight, okay, even if it's a transparent glass, because it will cut out the red spectrum of the sunlight which
Yeah.
your body needs. So, yeah, so the more natural sunlight you get throughout the day, the more prana you will get, the more your body will understand to sync with the nature around you.
Yeah. How much time should one spend in sunlight? Because the other day I went for a walk and I spent around 30 minutes or so.
Hmm.
So is that
So,
enough?
no, I wouldn't say that throughout the day, not
Hmm.
enough. So, let me open my curtains on that note, get more sunlight. So, I think 2 hours minimum.
Hmm.
And by 2 hours, I don't mean you have to directly walk out in the sunlight. Even if you're sitting like this with an open window, I would count that.
But again, we are not getting full spectrum. So how much time should we get the full spectrum of sun as well?
So, 2 hours, like any time of the day, early morning sunlight, at least you should get 15 minutes or 30, 15 to 30 minutes minimum. And then throughout the day, the spectrum changes
Okay.
as the sun moves.
Okay.
So if you are sitting in a AC office which is inside a glass building, at least go out every 1.5 hour, 2 hour. Go outside the building or in the balcony or terrace and just look up at the sky. That
Okay.
much you can do. And if you can set your working environment in a semi outside environment or a shaded environment, but outside, that would be best.
Hmm.
And then winding down your screen time and blue light after the sunset, that's
Yeah.
another part of it.
Yeah. I think that's a very big topic that we'll be covering sometime later because it's the circadian rhythm and how it affects the period. Also, I think
Right.
we might do one episode about it. But yeah, I think we had a really good episode today.
Yeah, it was worth the wait, a gap of 3 weeks, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I think we would love to hear from people who watch this podcast if they want to learn about something specifically because we are also on our learning journeys and every time we are doing this podcast, we are also doing a lot of research, reading a lot of papers and material about how different things are affecting our periods and because we want to understand our periods better and I think Richa is working with a lot of patients also who are dealing with PCOS, endometriosis, and other period problems.
Yeah.
And I'm also learning about Sujok therapy. So, if you have anything that you want us to specifically cover, you can help us with that in the comments. And
Yeah.
if you just want to share, because this podcast began with us sharing our experiences. So if you want
Hmm.
to share your experience with people or anyone who comes across the podcast, even that is also going to be a great thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So comment on this even if you're watching the recording. My mom just commented red anardana. I think you were to put on the thing something red on the
Yeah.
meridian points.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That work? Yeah, red anardana. Yeah. So
Yeah. It
that.
might.
Yes. So yeah, let's wrap this up. Wrap up this episode. I've changed my name to my Instagram handle, so any one of you want to get in touch, you can do that.
Hmm.
Um, and we will see you in the next episode. We will announce what it is going to be about soon. And keep your comments coming in. Even if you're watching the recording, we do go back and read it. We will address it in the next podcast. And bye. Have a great Sunday.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Namrata.
Richa.